نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من أطاع الله ورسوله فقد رشد واهتدى ومن يعصيهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا وسيجزي الله الشاكرين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون صدق الله العظيم. My respected brothers and sisters, Nelson Mandela, the icon of human rights, resistance, uprising, and democracy, passed away yesterday. And the person who has spent 27 years of his life behind bars, and the person who was called the terrorist of Africa, not only by the South African government, but also by the Prime Minister of Britain, Margaret Thatcher, and not only by Thatcher, but also our own president, the so-called Great Reagan. They declared him the greatest terrorist and saboteur of Africa. And the person who remained on the State Department's terrorist watch list till 2008 is being remembered today by the President of America as the great hero of freedom, as the great hero of reconciliation, and as the icon of resistance. This is a very known story in human history. All of us, we know that humanity has got two kinds of tendencies. One is when they are in power, position, and authority, they somehow forget that they are human beings, or they forget that the people who are being governed are also human beings. Dictators have got the tendency to forget that this authority, this power is God-given, and this is amana. This is the trust of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And nothing stays in this world forever. These authorities, these powers and positions, they come and they go. And this is what makes their akhirah, and not only their akhirah, but also their legacy in this world. So those people who oppressed Nelson Mandela and the African National Conference or Congress and many of the members of African community from 1948 all the way till 1996, who put so many of them in jail for no reasons other than asking for freedom and liberty, had to give way for those people who were oppressed, and they came back, and Nelson Mandela became the president of South Africa and the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. What a hypocrisy. But as Sheikh Ziyad was talking about our own heroes, When we are talking about Nelson Mandela today, we have to go back to our own Islamic history and see we have got plenty of heroes of liberty, freedom, and resistance. And as we are coming out of the month of Muharram al-Haram, and Muharram al-Haram marks the martyrdom of the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Imam Hussain bin Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So I will remind myself and you about the model of Imam Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the model of patience, resilience, and the ideology of active resistance. And before I start the discussion about Imam Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, I want to explain to you a little bit about what's going on in the Muslim world today and how sometimes efforts are made to politicize Imam Hussain and to politicize the massacre of Karbala and to put it in a political type of framework. And the reason is that there are some people who feel threatened by the example of the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because when people talk about the sacrifices of Imam Hussain, when people talk about the resistance of Imam Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, it becomes clear that Imam Hussain is the epitome or the model of resistance against one family's rule, or the mulukiya, or the monarchy, or what we call the, mashallah, the elite people in the society. So therefore, whenever Imam Hussein's martyrdom is talked about, the royal families, they feel threatened because they are the one who are following the footstep of those people against whom Imam Hussain stood up. They are appointing their sons and their grandsons as the rulers after them. They are the one who are not sharing the resources of the Ummah with the Ummah at large. These are the people who have been compromising so many Islamic issues. You name it, whatever has been going on for the last 30, 40, 50 years. You can put the blame upon these people because they have compromised these Islamic qadaya for the sake of maintaining their family power and authority. So therefore, whenever Muharram al-Haram comes and people start talking, even from religious perspective, about the demise of Imam Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, there are special efforts made in the Muslim world to give this type of incident a very political flavor and make it look like as if the grandson of Rasulullah was hungry for political power and he went against Yazid and his army, not for the sake of Islam, not for the sake of establishing the deen of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not for the sake of standing against Taghut, but for the sake of personal power and personal authority. My brothers and sisters, you don't expect this kind of attitude from a person who was brought up in the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You and me, we trust the training and the tarbiyah of Rasulullah sallallahu. Even a person who said one time La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and saw the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam with his own eyes and then died as a Muslim, we call them as a Sahabi. And we call even that person who has just have seen Rasulullah sallallahu from thousands of miles or maybe from mile distance and said La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and died as a Muslim, a Sahabi, and we say radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with him and he is pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is what is the stature of Rasulullah sallallahu. Imagine somebody who is born in the household of Rasulullah sallallahu, in the house of Ali and Fatima to Zahra. The Fatima, who is the daughter of Rasulullah sallam, and not only the daughter, but a very close daughter to the heart of Rasulullah sallam. Rasulullah sallam, when he looks at Fatima, he says, "You remind me of Khadija. So I have got two things in you, Fatima, my daughter and the perception of my respected and honored wife, Khadija." And the Prophet ﷺ would say, "Fatima tu budghatun minni." Fatima is part of my body, is part of my heart. And Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, who is the cousin of Rasulullah sallam, but the son of the uncle of Rasulullah sallam, who brought up Rasulullah sallam, Abu Talib, took Rasulullah sallam in when Rasulullah sallam's grandfather passed away, and Rasulullah sallam has lost his father as well as mother. So from 8 years of life, Rasulullah sallam has known no other mother or father except Abu Talib and his wife Fatima bint al-Asad. So when Rasulullah sallam grows up, and now he has married with Sayyidah Khadija, and he is a person of resources, he wants to give back to his uncle Abu Talib. So when Abu Talib is blessed with Sayyidina Ali, Rasulullah sallam and Sayyidah Khadija go to the house of Abu Talib and say, "I want to adopt this son. I want to bring him up as you brought me up." So from the first day Ali came to this existence, he came in the laps of Rasulullah sallam. Rasulullah sallam brought him up in his house, give him his tarbiyah, and basically he is the cousin but also the son of Rasulullah sallam. That's where Rasulullah sallam, when his daughter Fatima comes to the age of marriage, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala goes and says, "Ya Rasulullah sallam, I have the honor of having you as my son-in-law. I gave you the best of what I had, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala. And I want to have this honor of marrying your daughter and becoming your son-in-law." The Prophet ﷺ said, "No, Fatima's marriage will be decided in the heavens." So Sayyidina Abu Bakr got the message. So he goes to Sayyidina Umar, "Man, I was rejected. Maybe you try your luck and be the son-in-law of Rasulullah sallam." Sayyidina Umar tries. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Fatima's marriage will be decided in the heavens." He goes to Sayyidina Uthman. I'm making the short, history. "You have been married to two daughters of Rasulullah sallam. They passed away. So you go, maybe you have got the chance." Same answer is given to Sayyidina Uthman. But Rasulullah sallam calls Ali and say, "Ali, get ready for marriage." "Ya Rasulullah, I don't have money. I don't have resources. What do you have?" "Ya Rasulullah, I don't have even the money for mahar." "Okay, whatever you have got, I will accept it." So Sayyidina Rasulullah sallam marries Fatima with Sayyidina Ali, and that tells you how much love Rasulullah sallam had for him. So Hussain and Hassan, they were not only in the household of Rasulullah sallam. After the death of Rasulullah sallam, they stayed with their parents, Imam Ali and Sayyidah Fatima to Zahra, and had the tarbiyah of those people who were brought up and trained by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's where I want to make clear that this incident, the incident of Karbala, should not be looked from the perspective of politics only, or it should not be given the type of twist which is being given in our history nowadays, that somehow Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu made a mistake of going against an established ruler and calling for uprising and revolt against somebody who was elected by the Ummah, and somehow this was a mistake. No, my brothers and sisters, it was not a mistake. But Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala did was exactly in line with the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and following the model of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? If you look at two ahadith, Rasulullah sallam one time is going with Sahaba and he saw a child playing with children. Rasulullah sallam ran to him, and the child started running away with his friends. And the Prophet ﷺ is running after that baby or child. When Rasulullah sallam grabbed him, he placed him in his lap, put his hands on his face, kissed him, and said, Husaynu minni wa ana min Hussain. Hussain, that was the grandson of Rasulullah sallam, playing with the children. So the Prophet ﷺ says to all of his Sahaba who are with him, Husaynu minni wa ana min Hussain. Hussain is from me and I am from Hussain. Allahumma ahabbi man ahabba Husayna. O Allah, love the people whosoever Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And in one of the other narrations it is said, and Ya Allah, hate the people who hate Hussain. But not everybody agrees about that part. But everybody agrees about Allahumma ahabbi man ahabba Husayna. Hussain sibtu min al-asbab. He is truly the son. So imagine, some of the scholars have reflected upon the second part of the hadith. We can understand that the Prophet ﷺ would say, Hussain is from me. He is my grandchild. But wa ana min Hussain, and I am from Hussain. What is Prophet ﷺ hinting at it? So some of them, they said, it's an interpretation, that as Hussain learns from me and becomes whosoever he is because of my teaching, my deen will be put back on the right track again by this son of Rasulullah sallallahu wa ana min Hussain. My deen will basically owe a lot to this guy, and I will owe something to the sacrifices of this person. This is an interpretation. What? The reason is, Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, when he saw that the Ummah's authority or resources were being usurped by one family, that Amir Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala appointed his son in his own lifetime as the Khalifa, even though Yazid was not as professional, as righteous, as capable like Abdullah ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, Hussain bin Ali, Abdullah ibn Abbas, and many of the other Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in. His only qualification was because he was the son of the sitting Khalifa and part of the ruling family, not because he was better for the Ummah or better for that position. So that's where Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala, he gave his life. He gave the life of his children. Whatever he had, he sacrificed, but he did not compromise the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu by giving allegiance to the person who was not appropriate to the ummah of that time. So therefore, my brothers and sisters, it is important for us to understand that his stance is not a political stance or a mistake. And I also see the hypocrisy in the other side. Now, look at Iran and Hezbollah. They are, mashallah, too much into the love of Imam Hussain. Most of the Shia brothers and sisters, they always talk about Imam Hussain. And there's nothing wrong in talking about Imam Hussain. But look at what they are doing in Syria. Now, model of Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala is to stand up against the oppressor and against those people who are usurping the resources and the rights of the Shah, of the masses. So now, as we see the hypocrisy in many of the Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, all of them, when it comes to Egypt, they don't see that the people's opinion should be respected. So instead of supporting Mursi, they support the army which is usurping the authority of the democratically elected government. They don't see the problem in Bahrain, where majority of the people, even if they are Shia, I don't care. But if we are talking about majority, but the majority is coming out for changing. But over there, no, we have to support the royal family. But then they remember so much about the Shah of Syria that they are against everything over there. This is one side. But they don't see that in Egypt or in Bahrain or in Saudi Arabia or in Abu Dhabi, that the people have got the right to determine whosoever they want to. But then in Syria, they remember everything Islamic. Iran and Hezbollah, they see everything, mashallah, in Syria, and remember Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu, but then they are supporting the dictator in Syria and not the model of Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala. That tells you that these politicians, these rulers, they do not follow any set of principles. Their principles are their personal agendas and their regimes and their authority. So therefore, as Muslims, we need to remind ourselves that while we are talking about Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu, while we are talking about Nelson Mandela, we have to internalize that message and see what is the message for you and me. The message for you and me is, my brothers and sisters, that as Muslims we have got a duty to look at what is right and what is wrong, and basically support what is right and stop what is wrong. And especially when we see that the dictators, the royal family, those people who are basically governing the Muslim masses in the name of coming from one blood, from one lineage, from one family, and they've got the right or the claims to all of these billions and zillions of dollars, but they are not sharing it with the community at large, or they are not making it to serve the greater causes of the ummah. We need to advise them, but if they do not listen for years and years and years, then the Muslims have got the right to stand up and demand their rights, their liberty, their freedom, and also to reclaim their resources. And I also want to make clear that those ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu, which are very often quoted by some of our scholars, that any kind of revolt against the existent government is haram, because the Prophet ﷺ said that listen atir wa wasma amirak wa in daraba dhahrak wa akhadha malak, as the hadith goes, that listen to your ruling party, to your ruler, even if that person basically beats you up on your back, takes your property away from you, as long as he gives you the opportunity to do your salah and to establish your basic ibadah, you should not go against them. My khutbah was misunderstood last time when I explained this hadith, that actually I was trying to give some of the background for Sheikh al-Azhar or Sheikh Ramadan al-Bhuti, who went with this narration and felt that people should not go against their rulers in Syria or in Egypt. I was not supporting their stance. I made it very much clear that I totally disagree with them and I totally disagree with their stance, but I was against calling them kafir as I saw it happening on the internet, because they were following a tradition in our Islamic fiqh. But I truly believe that that narrative or tradition has been given limelight by our ruling classes, and they encourage this type of interpretation so that ummah keeps on sleeping and saying, as long as I can do my salah, I don't have to ask my rulers where are they spending the money and what are they doing. It's absolutely wrong. If this was the dominant sunnah, if that was the dominant opinion in Islam, then Rasulullah sallam would not go against the powers of Makkah and the other powers which were challenging the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His grandson will not die in Karbala along with the men and women of his family, being mercilessly killed and butchered, but will not give the allegiance because he felt if he gives it, it will set the standards for the coming generations that you can accept the rulers even if they are wrong, even if they are less capable, or even if they are not capable of governing the ummah. So therefore, if you look at the Khuruj or the revolt of Imam Hussain, or his grandson Imam Zayd bin Ali, or his children Imam Yahya, and many of them, so many revolts have been done in the first century by the family of Rasulullah sallam against the established rulers, and no other family has suffered as many martyrdom as the direct family of Rasulullah sallam in this instance. So therefore, it is important for us to know that the dominant tradition in our Islamic history is the tradition of active resistance, of standing up against injustice, and being the catalyst and the agent of change, and not the agents of status quo and accepting whatever is taking place because we do not want to disrupt the masses or bring the destruction to them. No, it brings more disruption. It brings more evil if we keep quiet and do not change, and that's what has been happening in the Muslim Ummah for so many years. It is the time for us, the Muslims, to come and look at our tradition, revise it, go back to its origin, and stop these type of usurpations which are the hallmark of almost every country in the Muslim world. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. You must be asking, what can I do? I cannot make a change there in Saudi Arabia or Iran or Lebanon. My brothers and sisters, this is a challenge for you and me, for every individual Muslim. We have to look at our influence, at our sphere of influence, and see wherever there is imbalance, wherever there is usurpation, wherever there is authoritarianism, we have to say our mind, because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us. I don't want to go too far. Wallahi, here in America, in our national organizations, and even here locally, I can tell you, people start the masajid, they invite the community to basically donate, and once the masjid is clear, now everything is in my name. As long as I am there, masjid is going to run. If I am not there, I will not allow even Salat al-Jummah, or I will not let the masjid run in a professional way. People have taken the land and the money of the masjid back to their names. My question is, are we doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we are doing it for our personal authority and gain? If I am there, it's masjid. If I'm not there, I'm not going to even let people do the salah over there. So my question is, where is the community? Where are we as Muslims? Yes, we can't make the change over there, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask me and you, why are we allowing such kind of tendency in these type of situations where we know there is something wrong and we cannot say wrong to the wrong? So therefore, when we are talking about these bigger issues, we have to reflect inwardly and ask myself, where can I make the change? And if I can make the change and I'm not making the change, what will be my response to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So therefore, as a community, the change need to start with me. And if each one of us will feel the responsibility, the ripple effect will go to the ummah, and you will see the change everywhere else.